Good morning. Basa muna ng Bible, guys. Judges chapter 19, 20, and 21. And Luke chapter 7, verse 31 to... Kalimutan na. Verse 31 to 50. Dito muna tayo sa Judges. Judges chapter 19. War against the tribe of Benjamin, a Levite and his concubine. In those days, Israel had no king. Now a Levite who lived in a remote area in the hill country of Ephraim took a concubine from Bethlehem in Judah. But she was unfaithful to him. She left him and went back to her father's house in Bethlehem, Judah. After she had been there for 4 months, her husband went to her to persuade her to return. He had with him his servant and 2 donkeys. She took him into her father's house, and when her father saw him, he gladly welcomed him. His father-in-law, the girl's father, prevailed upon him to stay. So he remained with him 3 days, eating and drinking and sleeping there. On the 4th day, they got up early and prepared to leave. But the girl's father said to his son-in-law, "Refresh yourself with something to eat, then you can go." So the two of them sat down to eat and drink together. Afterward, the girl's father said, "Please stay tonight and enjoy yourself." And when the man got up to go, his father-in-law persuaded him, so he stayed there that night. On the morning of the 5th day, when he rose to go, the girl's father said, "Refresh yourself, wait till afternoon." So the two of them ate together. Then when the man with his concubine and his servant got up to leave his father-in-law, the girl's father said, "Now look, it's almost evening. Spend the night here. The day is nearly over. Stay and enjoy yourself." Walang katapusan. Early tomorrow morning, you can get up and be on your way home, but unwilling to stay another night. The man left and went toward Jebus, that is Jerusalem, with his 2 saddled donkeys and his concubine. When they were near Jebus and the day was almost gone, the servant said to his master, "Come, let's stop at the city of the Jebusites and spend the night." His master replied, "No, we won't go into an alien city whose people are not Israelites. We will go on to Gibeah." He added, "Come, let's try to reach Gibeah or Ramah and spend the night in one of those places." So they went on, and the sun set as they neared Gibeah in Benjamin. There they stopped to spend the night. They went and sat in the city square, but no one took them into his home for the night. That evening, an old man from the hill country of Ephraim, who was living in Gibeah, the men of the place were Benjamites, came in from his work in the fields. When he looked and saw the traveler in the city square, the old man asked, "Where are you going? Where did you come from?" He answered, "We are on our way from Bethlehem in Judah to a remote area in the hill country of Ephraim, where I live. I have been to Bethlehem in Judah, and now I am going to the house of the Lord. No one has taken me into his house. We have bought straw and fodder for our donkeys, and bread and wine for ourselves, your servants. May your maidservant and the young man with us. We don't need anything." "You are welcome at my house," the old man said. "Let me supply whatever you need, only don't spend the night in the square." So he took him into his house and fed his donkeys. After they had washed their feet, they had something to eat and drink. While they were enjoying themselves, some of the wicked men of the city surrounded the house. Pounding on the door, they shouted to the old man, who owned the house, "Bring out the man who came to your house so we can have hmm? so we can have sex with him." The owner of the house went outside and said to them, "No, my friends, don't be so vile." What is so vile? Don't be so vile. Vile. Hanapin natin mamaya sa Google. "Since this man is my guest, don't do this disgraceful thing. Look, here is my virgin daughter and his concubine. I will bring them out to you now, and you can use them and do to them whatever you wish." Hmm? Yung kanyang anak. But this man don't do such disgraceful thing. But the man would not listen to him. So the man took his concubine and sent her outside to them, and they raped her and abused her throughout the night. And at dawn, they let her go. So kahit nung araw, no, mayroon ng rapist. Hindi nawawala. Kahit dito sa store sa Bible, mayroon ng rapist. And the rape, nasaan ako? And they raped her and abused her throughout the night, and at dawn, they let her go. At daybreak, the woman went back to the house where her master was staying, fell down at the door, and lay there until daylight. At daybreak, the woman went back to the house where her master was staying, fell down at the door, and lay there until daylight. When her master got up in the morning and opened the door of the house and stepped out to continue on his way, there lay his concubine fallen in the doorway of the house with her hands on the threshold. He said to her, "Get up, let's go." But there was no answer. Then the man put her on his donkey and set out for home. When he reached home, he took a knife and cut up his concubine limb by limb into 12 parts and sent them into all the areas of Israel. Grabe. Everyone who saw it said, "Such a thing has never been seen or done, not since the day the Israelites came up out of Egypt. Think about it, consider it, tell us what to do." Ay. Israelites fight the Benjamites. Then all the Israelites from Dan up to Beersheba and from the land of Gilead came out as one man and assembled before the Lord in Mizpah. The leaders of all people of the tribes of Israel took their places. Wait lang, ha? Took their places in the assembly of the people of God. 400,000 soldiers. Wow, kay dami. Napakarami. Armed with swords, the Benjamites heard that the Israelites had gone up to Mizpah. Then the Israelites said, "Tell us, this awful thing happened." So the Levite, the husband of the murdered woman, said, "I and my concubine came to Geba in Benjamin to spend the night. During the night, the men of Geba came after me and surrounded the house, intending to kill me. They raped my concubine, and she died. I took my concubine, cut her into pieces, and sent one piece to its region of Israel's inheritance, because they committed this lewd and disgraceful act in Israel. Now all you Israel, now you all, now all you Israelites, speak up and give your verdict." All the people rose as one man, saying, "None of us will go home. No, not one of us will return to his house. But now this is what we'll do to Geba. We'll go up against it and against it as the lot directs. Will take 10 men, will take 10 men out of every 100 from all the tribes of Israel, and a hundred from 1,000, and 1,000 from 10,000, to get provisions for the army. Then, when the army arrives at Geba and Benjamin, it can give them what they deserve for all this villainies done in Israel. So all the men of Israel got together and united as one man against the city. The tribes of Israel sent men throughout the tribe of Benjamin, saying, "What about this awful crime that was committed among you? Now surrender those wicked men of Geba, so that we may put them to death and purge the evil from Israel." But the Benjamites would not listen to their fellow Israelites. From their towns they came together to Geba to fight against the Israelites. At once the Benjamites mobilized 26,000 swordsmen from their towns. Sila na guys, dahil lang doon sa rapist. Sila na nag-aaway. Magkakamag-anak yan eh. At once the Benjamites mobilized 26,000 swordsmen from their towns, in addition to 700 chosen men from those living in Gaibe. Wait lang, inom muna tayo. Sa chapter 16, sa verse 16 ng chapter 20. Judges chapter 20, verse 16. Among all the soldiers, there were 700 chosen men who were left-handed. Each of whom could sling a stone at a hare and not miss. Ang galing. Left-handed pa yan. Pag mga left-handed, malalakas. Verse 17. Israel, apart from Benjamin, mustered 400,000 swordsmen, all of them fighting men. The Israelites went up to Bethel and inquired of God. They said, "Who of us shall go first to fight against the Benjamins?" Paano yan? Pareho sila ng God. Kasi mga anak ni Israel eh. Sino na lang ang papakinggan sa kanila ni Father God? Pareho yan na eh. Pareho sila ng... Kasi nga diba mga angkanto ni Israel. Tapos sila nag-aaway. Dahil doon sa rapist na yun. The Lord replied, "Judah shall go first." The next morning the Israelites got up and pitched camp near Gibeah. The men of Israel went out to fight the Benjamites and took up battle position against them at Gibeah. The Benjamites came out of Gibeah and cut down 22,000 Israelites on the battlefield that day. Grabe. Tingnan mo lang oh. Ilan lang ang gumawa ng pagre-rape. 1,000 na ang namamatay. Ba't ayaw na lang kasi ilabas yung rapist na yun? But the men of Israel encouraged one another and again took up their positions where they had stationed themselves the first day. The Israelites went up and went before the Lord until evening, and they inquired of the Lord. They said, "Shall we go up again to battle against the Benjamites, our brothers?" The Lord answered, "Go up against them." Benjamites. Benjamin yun eh. Mga angka ni Benjamin, anak ni Israel. Then sa verse 24, then the Israelites drew near to Benjamin the second day. This time, when the Benjamites came out from Gibeah to oppose them, they cut down another 18,000 Israelites, all of them armed with swords. Ibig sabihin, malalakas talaga ang ano. Then the Israelites, all the people, went up to Bethel, and there they sat weeping before the Lord. They fasted that day until evening and presented burnt offering and fellowship offerings to the Lord. And the Israelites inquired of the Lord in those days. The ark of the covenant of God was there, with Phinehas, son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, ministering before it. They asked, shall we go up against to battle with Benjamin our brother, or not? The Lord responded, go, for tomorrow I will give them into your hands. Ang dami nang nalaga sa kanila. Then Israel set an ambush around Gibeah. They went up against the Benjamites on the third day and took a position against Gibeah as they had done before. The Benjamites came out to meet them and were drawn away from the city. They began to inflict casualties on the Israelites as before, so that about 30 men fell in the open field and on the roads, the one leading to Bethel and the other to Gibeah. While the Benjamites were saying, we are defeating them as before, the Israelites were saying, let's retreat and draw them away from the city to the roads. All the men of Israel moved from their places and took up positions at Baal Tamar, and the Israelites ambushed charged out of its place on the west of Gibeah. Then 10,000 of Israel's finest men made a frontal attack on Gibeah. The fighting was so heavy that the Benjamites did not realize how their disaster was. The Lord defeated Benjamin before Israel, and on that day, the Israelites struck down 25,100 Benjamites. Oh, kita mo guys, nang dahil sa rapist, ilang thousand yung namamatay. Benjamites all armed with swords. Then Benjamites saw that they were beaten. Now the men of Israel had given way before Benjamin because they relied on the ambush they had set near Gibeah. The men who had been in ambush made a sudden dash into Gibeah, spread out, and fought the whole city to the sword. The men of Israel had arranged with the ambush that they should send up a great cloud to smoke from the city, and then the men of Israel would turn into battle. The Benjamites had begun to inflict casualties on the men of Israel, about 30, and they said, we are defeating them as in the first battle. But when the column of smoke began to rise from the city, the Benjamites turned and saw the smoke of the whole city going up into the sky. Then the men of Israel turned on them, and the men of Benjamin were terrified because they realized that disaster had come upon them. So they fled before the Israelites in the direction of the desert, but they could not escape the battle. And the men of Israel who came out of the towns cut them down there. They surrounded the Benjamites, chased them, and easily overran them in the vicinity of Gibeah on the east. 18,000 Benjamites fell, all of them brilliant fighters, as they turned and fled toward the desert to the rock of Rimmon. The Israelites cut down 5,000 men along the roads. They kept pressing after the Benjamites as far as Gidom, and struck down 2,000 more. So 7,000 na ulit. 5,000 tsaka 2,000 eh. On that day, 25,000 Benjamin swordsmen fell, all of them valiant fighters. But 600 men turned and fled into the desert to the rock of Rimmon, where they stayed 4 months. The men of Israel went back to Benjamin and put all the towns to the sword, including the animals and everything else they found. All the towns they came across they set on fire. Ay, wala talaga madudulot tong giyera-giyera na to. Wala maidudulot na kabutihan. Puro patay. Wives for Benjamites. Ewan ko ba? Ba't sila ganun? Dapat payapa na lang. Ang una, nag-umpisa, nag-aaway dahil sa lupa. Ngayon naman, nag-aaway dahil sa rapist. Dahil ng rape. Wives for the Benjamites. The men of Israel had taken an oath at Mizpah. Not one of us will give his daughter in marriage to Benjamin. The people went to Bethel, where they sat before God until evening, raising their voices and weeping bitterly. O Lord, the God of Israel, they cried, why has this happened to Israel? Why should one tribe be missing from Israel today? Early the next day, the people built an altar and presented burnt offerings and fellowship offerings. Then the Israelites asked, who from all the tribes of Israel has failed to assemble before the Lord? For they had taken a solemn oath that anyone who failed to assemble before the Lord at Mizpah should certainly be put to death. Now the Israelites grieved for their brothers, the Benjamites. Today one tribe is cut off from Israel, they said. How can we provide wives for those who are left, since we have taken an oath by the Lord not to give them any of our daughters in marriage? Then they asked, which one of the tribes of Israel failed to assemble before the Lord at Mizpah? They discovered that no one from the Jabesh Gilead had come to the camp for the assembly. For when they counted the people, they found that none of the people of Jabesh Gilead were there. So the assembly sent 12,000 fighting men with instruction to go to Jabesh Gilead and put to the sword those living there, including the women and children. Kita mo na guys. Grabe no. Ganon sila katatapang talaga. This is what you are to do, they said. Kill every male and every woman who is not a virgin. They found among the people. Nakataas na yung kabilang pa ako. Nangalay na. They kill every man and every woman who is not a virgin. They found among the people living in Jabesh Gilead 400 young women who had never slept with a man, and they took them to the camp at Shiloh in Canaan. How do you know na hindi nga yan nag-sleep sa lalaki? Malalaman talaga nila kung virgin ang babae or not. Nagtataka talaga ako. Then the whole assembly sent an offer of peace to... Pati yung tiyan ko umagal na. Inom nga muna tayo tubig. Hindi kasi nagtataka lang ako. Malalaman mo ang isang babae na virgin or not. Kung virgin o hindi. Kapag sinubukan mo, di ba? Ay, nako. Di pag sinubukan mo, hindi na yun virgin. Pag sinubukan mo galawin, at doon mo lang malalaman. Then the whole assembly sent an offer of peace to the Benjamites at the rock of... reaction lang yun ha. Kasi nagtataka lang talaga ako. Unless na mula ng pagkabata, nandoon sila, nasubaybayan nila yun na yun talaga hindi nakikipag-boyfriend or what, ganun. Ito, pumunta na nga lang sila doon, no? Tapos, i-conclude na virgin, ganito, virgin. Diba? Then, the whole young women who had never slept with men, and they took them to the camp of Shiloh in Canaan. Sa verse 13 na tayo guys, chapter 21. Then the whole assembly sent an offer of peace to the Benjamites at the rock of Rimmon. So the Benjamites returned at the time and were given the women of Jabez Gilead, who has been spared, but there were not enough for all of them. The people grieved for Benjamin because the Lord had made a gap in the tribes of Israel. And the elders of the assembly said, with the women of Benjamin destroyed, how shall we provide wives for the men who are left? The Benjamite survivors must have heirs, they said, so that the tribe of Israel will not be wiped out. We can give them our daughters as wives, since we Israelites have taken this oath. Cursed be anyone who gives a wife to a Benjamite. So yun, hindi na sila pwede mag-asawa doon. But look, there is the annual festival of the Lord in Shiloh to the north. Yun dyan ko. Nung sinabi kong wala ng lagi yung umaangal. Hindi na ako ang umaangal yung tiyan ko na. Cursed be anyone who gives a wife to a Benjamite, but look, there is the annual festival of the Lord in Shiloh to the north of Bethel and east of the road that goes from Bethel to Shechem and to the south of Libnah. So they instructed the Benjamites, saying, go and hide in the vineyards and watch. When the girls of Shiloh came out to join in the dancing, then rush from the vineyards, and each of you sees a wife from the girls of Shiloh and go to the land of Benjamin. When their fathers or brothers complain to us, we will say to them, do us a kindness by helping them, because we did not get wives for them during the war, and you are innocent since you did not give your daughters to them. So that is what Benjamites did. While the girls were dancing, each man caught one and carried her off to be his wife. So kawawa na naman yung mga babae, no? Di man lang makapili ng mga papangasawa nila. Basta nalang kuhanin eh. They did return to their inheritance and rebuilt the towns and settled in them. At that time, the Israelites left the place and went home to their tribes and clans, to his town's inheritance. In those days, Israel had no king. Everyone did as he saw fit. Nasaan na tayo? Oh, tapos na pala guys. Bukas sa na tayo? Sa book na tayo ng Ruth. Nabahay kaya yan si Rose? Tingnan natin bukas pagkabasa natin. Luke chapter 31 verse Paray ko. Ano ba dyan ko? Angal ka ng angal dyan. Naririnig kasi yan sa video yung sound na yan. Verse 31. Luke chapter 7 verse 31 to 50. April 3, 2021. Advance na kasi yan. To what then can I compare the people of this generation? What are they like? They are like children sitting in the marketplace and calling out to each other, we played the flute for you, and you did not dance. We sang dirge, and you did not cry. What is dirge? D-I-R-G-E. For John the Baptist came neither eating bread nor drinking wine, and you say, he has a demon. Sorry talaga guys, yung chan ko ganyan talaga yun. Inom ulit tayo tubig. Problema ba yan? Tubig lang gamot. Tubig lang gamot yan. Angal na kasi ng angal eh. For John the Baptist came neither eating bread nor drinking wine, and you say, He has a demon. Ganyan talaga pagka mga pagmugising tayo. Hindi tayo babarahan ng yung ating lalamunan at yung ating ilong. Yung tiyan. Maangal na. Dito tayo sa verse 34. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and you say, here is a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. But wisdom is proved right by all her children. A sinful woman anoints Jesus' feet. Now one of the Pharisees invited Jesus to have dinner with him, so he went to the Pharisee's house and reclined at the table. When a woman who had lived a sinful life in that town learned that Jesus was eating at the Pharisee's house, she brought an alabaster jar of perfume. Ito yung sabi ng mga is napakamahal ng perfume. 1 year. 1 year yata na halaga ng salary. Ganun. Grabe mahal. No? And as she stood, kasi nabasa na natin to eh. And as she stood behind him at his feet weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears. Then she wiped them with her hair, kissed them, and poured perfume on them. When the Pharisee who had invited him saw this, yung tiyan ko, ako mismo nagugulat sa tiyan ko. Kasi yung yung sounds niya, parang sa meditation na kulog. Next time nga, ito na pang ano ko pang sounds ko eh. Itong video na to, kasi may kulog din siya. Yung tiyan ko. Nahinto na tayo. Masyado na tayo na-disturb. Sana ba? When the Pharisees who had invited him saw this, he said to himself, if this man were a prophet, he would know who is touching him and what kind of woman she is, that she is a sinner. Jesus answered him, Simon, I have something to tell you. Tell me, teacher, he said. Two men owed money to a certain moneylender. One owed him 500 denarii and the other 50. Neither of them had the money to pay him back. Ayoko sa lahat yung nangungutang hindi marunong magbayad. So he canceled the debts of both. Neither of them had the money to pay him back, so he canceled the debts of both. Now which of them will love him more? Simon replied, I suppose the one who had the bigger debt canceled. You have judged correctly, Jesus said. Then he turned toward the woman and said to Simon, do you see this woman? I came into your house. You did not give me any water for my feet, but she wet my feet with her tears. Ariko. Ay, Diyos ko yung tiyan ko. Paano ba yan? Kasi hinto na raw tayo. Ibig sabihin nun. Oras na bumaba. Hindi na tayo makakabasa ng ano. Then he returned. He did not give me any water for my feet, but she wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair. He did not give me a kiss, but this woman from the tears and wiped from. He did not give me a kiss, but this woman from the time I entered has not stopped kissing my feet. You did not put oil on my head, but she has poured perfume on my feet. Therefore I tell you, her many sins have been forgiven, for she loved much. But he who has been forgiven little loves little. Then Jesus said to her, your sins are forgiven. The other guests began to say among themselves, who is this who even forgives sins? Who is this whoever forgives sins? Jesus said to the woman, your faith has saved you. Go in peace. So, tomorrow chapter 8 na tayo. Bye everyone. God bless.